Hello and welcome to the Tour Report from Secret Golf. This week we're crossing the border for the RBC Canadian Open. Now, because of COVID, we haven't had this tournament on the schedule since 2019, so it's a fantastic week and a real week of celebration in Canada. I'm joined by Elk and, well, we're recording this on Tuesday morning and this week is kicking off. Obviously, the Canadian Open is going to be the main part of our show and we're going to get to that, but it would be wrong of us to not talk about everything that's going on surrounding LIV Golf and all these announcements.
Yeah, you told me this morning already that like 6 people have resigned their status for the PGA Tour. I'm not exactly sure what that means. We saw last week Kevin Na came out and said, look, I'm resigning my tour credentials, if you will. Does that mean he's retiring his retirement plan that he's earned for 19 years? You've said, you name him. Who is it? Dustin Johnson?
Dustin Johnson announced it this morning in the press conference. Sergio Garcia, Louis Oosthuizen, Brandon Grace and Charles Schwartzel have all resigned from the PGA Tour. So that's 6 of them so far.
Yeah, I mean, obviously there's a lot of information that we don't know. I mean, I know, that's a bold step. I don't know. Does that mean they'll never come back to the tour and play? Does that dilute the product now? Do the sponsors of the PGA Tour, the AT&Ts, the Waste Managements, are they now upset at the PGA Tour because they've lost 6 or 7 players that they would really want in the field? Is the tour gone too far? Have they overstepped their bounds? Should they have said, hey, play the 8 live events, come back and, very, very, very uneasy right now on both sides here, Diane.
And I think because we haven't heard from the PGA Tour, obviously Jay Monahan promised that there are going to be serious repercussions for anyone that plays in LIV Golf in any of these events. And there's been rumours going around about suspensions and fines and whatever else it may be, lifetime bans from the PGA Tour. Nobody knows. They haven't come out and said anything. They don't have to give specifics. I mean, if a player gets suspended from the tour, we don't have to know about it. I guess it's between the two parties. But we're all waiting because, I mean, for example, the guys that have resigned, do they lose their FedEx Cup points right away, which has to be so appealing for the guys that are sitting out with the 125 right now?
I heard that was on the cards for sure, that they would lose the FedEx. They would just drop out of the FedEx Cup as they stand today. Now, I think they're being advised by some lawyers from the LIV side of things. What I've heard through the grapevine is that everyone on the LIV side believes that these players are entitled to go play in a live event and then come back and play on the tour as an independent contractor. It's going to be very interesting to see. Does the tour now, they have no grounds for anything now because these guys have resigned their status. They're not coming back, so to speak. So don't know what's going to happen, Diane.
And then I was even looking at the early commitments for the Travellers. I mean, Dustin Johnson had committed to the Travellers Championship in a few weeks. I'm guessing that's finished now. Like Ian Poulter, he's in the field for the Travellers, but he's playing LIV this week. So with these guys, there's going to have to be something that's announced at some point, whether it's through the PGA Tour or you have someone like Poulter who's extremely vocal on social media. And I'm sure if he's banned, he's going to come out and tell us. I would think so, going by the way that he kind of acts. But you just don't know. And then we haven't even touched on Phil Mickelson yet. It was announced on Monday that he was playing in the LIV event, numbers being thrown around in the region of $200 million. And then he did an interview with Sports Illustrated saying that because he's worked hard to earn a lifetime membership on the PGA Tour, he hopes that he's going to be able to go and play there again. So again, we just don't know.
Yeah, it's obvious that the amount of money that they're being paid has, distorted everything of their thinking. I mean, in other words, Dustin Johnson, for example, won't earn another $100 million on the PGA Tour in his career, so he's going to take that 100. I think Phil, they're talking around 200. Some of these guys like Hudson Swafford or whoever, 30 million. Hudson Swafford won't win $30 million if he played on the tour for another 30 years. This won't happen. So they're saying, hey, and by the way, when I came on the tour, we wanted to play the tour for 30 years. I mean, I wanted to be a legacy player, which I was. I played the tour for 30 years. I don't think everyone anymore wants to play the tour for 30 years. They're like anyone else. They want to play, make as much money as they can in 10 years and retire. I mean, things have changed. Now, there is exceptions. Justin Thomas, Jordan Spieth, I see those guys, they want to play forever, and that's fine. But and they've put their stake in the ground and said, we're here, we're staying here. John Rahm's another, Rory McIlroy's another. These other guys are saying, hey, I can't make that kind of money at my age. Graham McDowell, for example, who would have a hard time making, being exempt every year, making $1 million, $1.5 million is to be exempt, may have to play 30 weeks on the PGA Tour to do that. They're offering them $20 million. McDowell's not going to make $20 million in the net. And if he loses his card, he's not going to play anything. So I think they're looking at it as protection. They're taking a lot of criticism. At the end of the day, for them, it's each one of them has to make their own personal decision.
Yeah, and we talked about Richard Bland on the show last week, who came out and said, I'm almost 50 years old. I'm doing it for the money. Like, the money, I'm not going to make that kind of money in my career, and this is going to benefit me and my family greatly. So very honest about it, and I love that. But then it's the issue that people dance around a little bit. Like Dustin Johnson this morning, he was asked, what do you say to the people who almost criticize you, saying that you've just done this for the money? And he's like, I say that I've made the choice that's best for me and my family. And is that financial? Someone like Dustin Johnson, did he really need the extra 125 million or whatever it was? But everyone's got a different motivation for doing it, and you can't, who are we to judge and say they're right or wrong doing so? I mean, it's an individual decision, I guess.
Yeah, I think there's a chance that the middle part of the tour could mass exodus over to LIV if there's going to be that kind of money and this gets shaken up so bad. I mean, I think, Ricky Fowler was talked about yesterday. He may leave. Bubba Watson, he may leave. Bryson DeChambeau still in the limbo. Well, now you're starting to get a pretty good pile of good players going over there, Diane. But if you start to tell the middle of the tour, the guys that are 40, that they're going to make, a minimum $5 million for playing on the LIV for the next 3 years, that's $15 million. I mean, you may see 30 guys from the middle of the tour just say, hey, we're out of here. I don't need any signing bonus. I'm going anyway.
Yeah, because we talk about the signing bonuses, but then first place gets $4 million, which is insane. And if there's no cut, 3-day event. If you finish last, you make 120,000. And for some of these younger guys that are coming out of college that are going straight to LIV, I mean, for them, they're getting to play against the likes of Dustin Johnson and Ian Poulter, Phil Mickelson, Taylor Gooch, some high quality names, and they're getting to make some money. So it's, but then how does that affect them going forward? Will they be allowed to play on the PGA Tour?
I think the guys that have never been on the tour, the amateurs and stuff, I think they would be able to then go qualify for the tour if the LIV fell through or they got knocked off of it because of performance. I think they are going to have a performance in there. If you're not up to par, they're going to have a draft where they draft more players to come onto LIV each year. So I think if you're an amateur, you got nothing to lose because you're not on the tour, so you're not a member of it. So you go play this, make a bunch of money. If they finish last every event for these 8, they make basically $1 million. That's pretty good start money. I mean, considering I borrowed 20 grand from the bank to play the tour in 1986, bought a car, and I went on the tour with $18,000. So things have changed, Diane, a lot. And I think there's going to be a lot more happen. We'll see. But certainly it's here to stay. I mean, I've heard through other, people in the industry that LIV Golf's not going anywhere. They've got so much money. Apparently, they got $4 billion set aside to make this happen, to sit at the table. So clearly money is not an issue.
Yeah. And they've not only got the money, but they have the star power now. And you look at Dustin Johnson and Phil Mickelson alone, let alone the other people, as you say, these kind of middle of the road golfers on the PGA Tour that are maybe going to leave after they see how the first event goes down. There's new developments every single day right now, and it is going to be a very interesting week. I'm very intrigued to see this tournament kick off on Thursday and see the actual buzz once the play begins.
And where will we be watching this? On YouTube?
Yeah, YouTube, on their website. I think on Facebook they're going to be streaming it. So they figured that out. I mean, okay, it's not going to be televised on one of the national networks, but who cares? I mean, we're used to watching things through streaming platforms now. So if they have the likes of YouTube on their side, then we're going to be watching.
I'm going to be watching to see what it's all about.
Me too, for sure. Right, okay, well, we don't want to take the shine away from the RBC Canadian Open because, as we said, this tournament, because of COVID, hasn't been played since 2019. It's on a different course this year, St. George's Golf and Country Club. Rory Mcilroy is defending champion, and the field is good this week. I mean, Rory's playing. We have Sam Burns, Justin Thomas, Scotty Scheffler, Cameron Smith, 5 of the official world golf rank top 10. And then, of course, we have a whole host of these Canadian players who are really going to enjoy playing in their home nation this week.
I played at this course in 2010, I figured out, Diane, Royal St. George's, very close to the centre of Toronto, not too far out of town at all. Beautiful golf course. Sort of reminds me of a course that you play in Australia, in Sydney, where it's the town, you're almost in the middle of the city. It's slightly in the suburbs, however, small course, Diane, only 7,000 yards. Thompson course, you can see behind you there, lots of bunkers, lots of undulating greens. Very short course for these players. I'm wondering if they'll be able to, in the handicapping, in my thinking is, will these guys like Rory Mcilroy go for it, like try to drive it down there on all these holes? There's a lot of rough this week. They're getting ready for they've done a nice job of putting a lot of rough out so the players that are playing the US Open will be ready for Brookline. Mm-hmm. But I still think this course, as I remember, Diane, is a second shot golf course. Tricky greens, slopey. That's the only thing that protects it. So if you're in the rough, you're not going to have much chance. So do they play strategy? It certainly opens up the idea that a shorter player can play well in this tournament. Love to see some Canadians do well. The Canadian Open is always so popular with the fans. They come out. I remember playing this tournament. It was pouring down rain, Diane, and all those Canadians, they just stand there in the rain and watch the golf. Some of them didn't have umbrellas. Some of them didn't even have rain jackets. And I said to my caddy, I said, is it strange to you that all the Canadians just stand there in the rain and watch the golf? And he goes, nope. He said, they love the golf and they're used to the rain. They don't care. They're just going to stay here all day and watch the golf. They love it.
Especially now with the return after the absence. And I've heard people talk about this course this week saying that it's the best golf course in Canada and it's constantly rated in like the top 3 courses anyway. But as you say, it was last played for this tournament in 2010. Since then, there have been a lot of renovations. The greens were rebuilt in 2014. They modelled them on the original designs, but they took some slope out of the greens and added some speed into them. But one of the main factors, and you touched on it there, the rough is definitely thicker than the PGA Tour standard. And you can see it behind me around this green. Bunkers surrounding every green. So it was probably the same in 2010, but there's a real premium on greens and reg, hitting the greens, and you have to be a great scrambler with all this trouble.
Yeah, it's a short course, and as you say there, to me, I remember playing. I think our producer pulled it up. I finished tied for 41st, and I think I played pretty well as I recall. I don't know, hit the ball okay. The greens were very slopey, as you said. They've taken out some of it over the years. It's just gotten too slopey. Yeah. Can't wait to see this golf course. Just all about, going around dog legs, over little hills, hitting wedge shots into these tight pin placements. The course meanders through one side of the course through thick trees and it crosses over, goes around a few lakes and creeks and very interesting little shots, and then finishes on a really great hole, I think, coming right up the hill to you. That could be 9 or that could be 18 right next to it. Long hole number 18. But my handicapping this week, Diane, I'm focused on guys that are playing well. I still think that we're going to get a breakthrough from a young guy. I'm not picking the winner this week as a young guy. However, I'm going to talk about a few that I think are playing well. And I think Canadians are going to show up this week. If there was ever a week that 2 of the star players, Connors and Hadwin, had a chance to win, it's those 2 guys, particularly Connors, because he's 4th in greens and reg. Can he handle the pressure of playing in front of his home crowd? That happens a lot. Happened to me in Australia. It's difficult. But Hadwin had a hole-in-one last week at Jack's tournament. He's playing well. Like I said, Connor's fourth in ball striking. Course is perfect for Hadwin. 188th in putting is a little worrisome. But I can tell you right now, they're my two to watch. Maybe not. I'm just talking about that. I got another who to watch.
Well, no Canadian has won their National Open since 1958. So
I know.
Hopefully we can overcome that. But, something that's really interesting about this week is that the practice facilities are on another golf course, just about 7 minutes down the road. So guys will have to take a shuttle to start their rounds. And if you're watching Thursday, Friday and thinking, why are they teeing off on holes 1 and 9 instead of 1 and 10? I mean, logistically, that works better with the transportation. So guys off on 1 and 9, which is so unique.
I remember that going that range down there, Diane, and it was good because it was on a hole, so it was like you were teeing off on a par 4, so you could hit your drive and see if you could hit the fairway. So, yeah, 1 and 9 are right together, right on that side of the golf course from you. You pull the shuttle back and you walk right out and tee off on the 9th hole, par 4, straight up the hill. I think. It's a great week. Look at the golf course. I mean, the weather up there looks like it's going to be pretty good. Really looking forward to the Canadian Open.
Yeah, and there's a few players that did play this tournament on this course. As we said, it was slightly different in 2010. Pat Perez, who we're going to be watching closely. Luke Donald, who finished in a tie for 3rd that year. Brian Stewart, who blitzed it at the US Open qualifying yesterday. Brandt Snedeker and Canadian Nick Taylor. So you might want to take that into consideration as well. But we're going to give you our top picks. So we're going to go through the field and each pick an outright favourite, one to watch, and then a dark horse pick. And by the sounds of it, Elk, you've got a good few names up your sleeve for this week.
Well, I think when I start to think about who can actually win this tournament, when I look at Rory Mcilroy, will Rory be able to control the tee shot? Okay, I don't know about that. Scotty Scheffler, very good form, almost won Cologne. He didn't play that good, but he hung in there the whole week. Justin Thomas, PGA champion. Sam Burns, just won Colonial. Shane Lowry, number 1 and up and down. But, Cam Smith last week got off to a hot start at Memorial. He's number 1 in putting. It says on my sheet that he's like 64th in scrambling, but anyone that's seen Cam Smith scramble, some of the crazy up and downs he was making last week at Memorial, he is not 64th in scrambling. I'm sorry. He's number 1 in my mind. And I think Cam Smith will work this golf course out because he said last week that he didn't think he could drive it good enough to win at Jack's tournament. I wanted to call him up on the phone and told him, I said, mate, you just won at the Players' Championship. That's probably the narrowest course of the whole tour. Of course you can drive it straight enough. Will Cam Smith figure out how to lay up on some of these holes or shape his shots and get it in play? But I'm taking the best wedge player, best 9-iron player, and best 8-iron player with the combination of the number 1 putter on the tour, and that's Cam Smith this week, Diane. I think I'm looking towards him to win a major, and I think this is an important week for Cam to get back on his game. He had a rough Sunday, front 9, 43, but came back on the back, played well, finished with an eagle and a birdie. So, yep, Cam Smith's my guy this week.
He's 12-1. I kind of have 2, only because I hate picking one of the absolute favourites at 10-1. Like, it is what it is, I guess, though. But I was looking at Rory Mcilroy, and defending champion, albeit a different course in 2019, he shot 61 on Sunday to win. We all know what Rory can do. But I looked at the scoring average for these shorter courses on the PGA Tour, and Rory's scoring average on the short courses is better than anyone else's, even though he's one of the longest hitters that we see. So obviously a strong favourite this week, and all the good vibes going back to a tournament that he won last time around. So Rory's plus 1,000, but I'm like you too. Even though a Canadian hasn't won since 58, I've picked Corey Connors so many times. And then I thought I'd be doing him a real disservice if I didn't pick him to win his National Open. So, finished T13 at Memorial last week. And his approach stat was better than anyone else's for the week. Obviously, we know that's going to be important. The tee to green is always the strength of his game, and we know that the putter is always the high number when we look at his stats. However, what an amazing week for him. You know, they've been building up to the Canadian Open for such a long time now, and maybe the crowd will get his juices flowing a little bit on the greens. So Corey Connors at 22-1. I'm looking at him and Rory as my outright favourites.
Oh, you have two? Okay, I got it.
Rory,
I love Corey Connors.
Yeah.
You know, since I watched him practice at Floridian, and he, like I said, this course is made for him, fourth in ball striking. Shouldn't be any problem for him to play this golf course. He's, local, obviously, drive it in there between the bunkers, knock it up on the green, play great, get the crowd behind him, off he goes. No, I think you're right.
Okay, right. Well, one to watch. I'll let you start. I know that you're watching Connors.
I'm watching Connors and I'm watching Hadwin. I'd like to see the two Canadians play well. Although I'm really watching Sahith Theegala, who had a great week last week. This kid out of Pepperdine, just joined the tour, finished second out in Phoenix early in the year. Seems to me, I've watched him through his whole college career, Diane. He goes hot and cold, but when he gets hot, he's really hot. They got him at 66-1, which I think is pretty good. Maybe a little low for him. It could be, but I'm looking at Sahith Theegala to play well. I look for guys that travel well, who can go across the border. They're not worried about playing, not worried about a little different environment to play in. Sahith is Indian, big Indian population in Canada. I just think he's going to get a lot of support, and I'm watching Theegala this week.
Yeah, you do like him a lot. Well, I was almost going to pick Patrick Reed again, but I picked him last week, and I mean, he made the cut, finished pretty low down, but his game is definitely trending in the right direction. So Patrick Reed, I saw him at 65-1, 45-1 on some places, so he's on my radar. But I'm going to pick CT Pan at 80-1. Now, because this course is just over 7,000 yards, I really looked at that short course scoring average, and CT Pan has a really good track record on the shorter courses. I mean, he won the RBC's other sponsored event, the RBC Heritage at Harbourtown Golf Links in 2019, and he's having a good season. He's not making any major moves, but he's only missed 3 cuts in the entire season. That's including the fall swing last year. And he's got 5 top 16 finishes. So, playing well, obviously. And the approach stat for him is definitely the strength of his game. So I liked CT Pan. I found him at 80-1, and he's going to be my one to watch.
Good. I like it.
Different, yeah. Do you want to talk about Adam Hadwin? Because I know that he was on your radar too.
Yeah, I'm watching Hadwin. He is also 27th in ball striking. Both Canadians are very good ball strikers. Putting, 88th. I just think, when Mike Weir almost won the Canadian Open, I think he gave up a 3-shot lead on the back 9 to Vijay Singh out at Glen Abbey. I was there. It was a very dismal day for the Canadian crowd. I think this is the best chance they had. There's a few other names down our list here. You mentioned one other Canadian. There's about 10 of them playing on, probably more than that, but ones that we know of.
Yeah.
I'd really like to see some Canadians get into contention this week. And my dark horse is a Canadian that I'll talk about very soon. But I'll go first.
I'll go first then. So my dark horse, again, varying odds. So you're going to be like, oh, she's cheating. But I found him at 100-1 online. So that's fine. Some people have him a little bit less than that. But I'm going with Brendan Todd. And again, plays well on short courses. He won in Mayakoba in 2019, which is known for being one of the shorter courses on the tour. But if you want a straight hitter who can putt and has got good form of late, then Brendan Todd is your guy. He's 5th in driving accuracy and 6th in putting. Those stats are amazing. And he's been playing good. We saw him finish 3rd at the Charles Schwab Challenge just a few weeks ago. He had a top 10 at the Valero Texas Open. That was back in April. So I love Brendan Todd. I think he is definitely, you're seeing him playing well more and more lately. Obviously that finish at Colonial speaks volumes, but those stats to me were just amazing. And the fact that, he's not one of the longest hitters, but he doesn't really need to be this week, but he's so straight. So Brendan Todd at 100-1.
Yeah, when we go to a tour event, Diane, and we see all of us players practicing, and you might see Brendan Todd, and you'll mention, "Oh, mate, this course is perfect for you," and someone will say that to you because you're a straight hitter. People used to say to me sometimes, we'd get on a course where it was really windy, and they'd say, because I was a low hitter, they said, "Oh, this is a perfect course for you, Elk." I'd be betting on you if that was it. But Brendan Todd is a great fit. There was a name that you mentioned earlier today, Brian Stewart, who's 250 to 1, who qualified for the US Open yesterday for his 7th time in a row that he's qualified for the US Open. That to me is almost impossible to do. Tells me that a guy can go up to any old course, shoot 10 under for 36 holes and just move right through the field. What mentally, I've seen guys that are really good at qualifying, Diane. I've seen guys that are really bad at qualifying. I've seen really good players that can't qualify for things. Blaine Mickelson was one of our college guys. He could qualify for anything, and he'd get in the tournament, he wouldn't play good. Brian Stewart, 250 to 1. Wow. Got to be feeling really good about going to Brookline next week. He's one of mine dark horses. However, I'm going for a Canadian who's 125th on the FedEx. But you noted today that six guys gave up their membership. So now he's 119th on the FedEx. Yes. So he's in the money. Adam Svensson.
Okay.
And he plays pretty good golf, and he's 30. He has a nice form right now of 33rd on his current form. I'm just looking for guys that are that are motivated highly for this week. He will, of course, feel a little bounce this morning in his step from moving from 125th to 119th. Yeah. And it has some form. So I'm all in on the Canadians playing well this week, Diane. I feel it in my bones. It's like you for Scotland. It's like me for Australia. We want our home people to do well.
Good. There's some other names just as I'm looking at our re-ranking, and you can check it out on the SG Tour Golf Gaming app. Play along in the games as well, but we have our full sheet up there with all of our re-ranking, all of the stats, and you can really dive into how we do it. But Chris Kirk, definitely one that was on my radar. He's 45 to 1. And then when you look at current form, the guy that came in second in current form is Tony Finau. And I feel like we haven't talked about him in such a long time. But he's 25 to 1.
I looked very hard at Tony Finau, Diane, and when I asked myself, and you outlaid what you talked about Brendan Todd, where he drives it straight and hits his irons, approach is good, and he's a very good putter. Mm-hmm. I could not put that case together for Tony Finau. He's a long hitter, not a particularly awesome wedge player, and he's an average putter. Now, doesn't mean he can't win this tournament, but I'm just saying when you start to think about how can we put this together, I talked about Cam Smith. He's the best wedge player, best 9-iron player, best 8-iron player, best putter on tour. Yeah. Does he beat Tony Finau? And this is how we start to put these things together. Yeah. And, of course, Cam Smith gets it up and down like nobody's business. So I love Finau, but I just can't pick him this week.
Okay. And I'm just checking Adam Svensson, 160 to 1 for your dark horse. So you've got some good high odds this week. I love it. Right, well, it's going to be a interesting week. There's going to be a lot of conversation over the next couple of days around the RBC Canadian Open, and then, of course, the LIV Golf event that's happening in London as well. Obviously, we talked about the fact that we've got Dustin Johnson, Phil Mickelson are kind of the headline names, but somebody's going to walk away with $4 million, whoever wins, and Dustin Johnson is the obvious favourite by a mile.
Yeah, maybe you and I should watch a little LIV Golf on Thursday afternoon, and maybe we should just do a little show about it, what we saw. What do you think of that? Yeah,
I would love to. I think that, as you said at the start, it's not going away. It's here to stay. So, I'm intrigued. I want to see what happens. Also, Michael McEwen, the Scottish golf writer who's been on our show a couple of times before, he's got media credentials and he's there this week. So I dropped him a message, but he said that he sat in so many press conferences in his time, but what he saw this morning at the press conferences is the wildest thing he's ever seen at a golf tournament. So I was like, you need to tell us more.
With the guy denouncing their membership or just in general?
I think with all of it. And then there was a second press conference with Taylor Gooch. I can't remember who the other guys were, but in the end, they had to get ushered out. I think one of the journalists lost his media credential because they said he was being rude.
Oh, they kicked him out?
Yeah, so apparently it all kicked off at the press conference this morning. So, you know,
I nominate you to go to the next LIV event up in Portland.
I would love to go. I would absolutely love to go and experience it and see what's going on. So
I'll work on that. I'll send Greg Norman a message and say that we want you there.
I'll be there.
And by the way, on the LIV, final thing on the LIV, when you're talking about the majors, the US GA, of course, have the opportunity to be able to just sit there. They're not a tour. They're just a one event for the PGA Tour. So to me, I think you're not going to hear anything out of the USGA. Phil Mickelson, of course, is exempt to play in the US Open. I don't know some of the other players you said. I'm thinking Louis Oosthuizen would be in. Anyway, I think those guys are going to be there next week. I don't think there's going to be any drama around the US Open.
Yeah, I think it's too soon. I mean, there doesn't seem to be enough time for anything. I mean, if they have left the PGA Tour, the Tour haven't come out and said what the punishment is. The USGA just have to be in a situation where they don't have enough time to really do anything or make any changes. And then next week we have the US Open, which I know. Obviously all the qualifying, so it's off to Brookline next week, and we're on to another major. It's come around so quickly, but I can't wait to see this course and what it's going to do. So yeah, lots to unpack, and it's going to be interesting to see how the tournament plays out in London from Thursday onwards. As I said, we'll be back next week for the third major of the year. It's the US Open at Brookline.